On a rainy night, there was a knock at the door. Nels opened it and asked who it was, and it turned out to be Baron Mayfield. Mayfield jokingly mentioned that Nels had forgotten about him, but he had once helped his friend from the country prevent him from losing a cow in a scam. Nels had said he would repay Baron Mayfield for his help. Baron stated that today he would give him that opportunity. He then introduced the girl as Mayfield's only granddaughter, whom he had taken under his wing after the death of his son and his wife. She was almost 8 years old. Baron Mayfield was not sure if he could take her with him to El Dorado. He advised Hazel to be good, obey her uncles, and grow up healthy. Baron left the town and they noticed she was wearing different shoes with barely distinguishable colored laces. She also had a black cape over a dress with a threadbare hem. The woman turned to Hazel and told her that as long as she lived there, she was part of the family, so she had to work the same as Emily, Belle, and Noelle would also be working. A month later, the woman noticed that Hazel always addressed her as Madame Martin or Miss Martin and remained silent. Hazel explained that Hazel might be having a hard time adjusting to a new life, but assured Miss Martin not to worry as Hazel would soon get used to it. Miss Martin wondered if she should put her to work once she turned 10, as the children couldn't handle all the farm work, even though they worked hard. Suddenly, Noelle ran to his mother and informed her that Hazel had planted all the sprouts. Miss Martin was surprised, as she had thought they were washed away by the rain. Noelle explained that Hazel had planted them again and made them grow. Miss Martin asked Hazel how she had managed to do it. The girl mentioned how she sat and observed them. Each one of them was unique, like people, and when she touched them, she could feel their individuality. Some were in need of more water, while one desired a sunnier spot to be planted. Hazel gently patted them to encourage their growth, knowing that each one would receive a boost of energy afterwards. When the Nels and his wife heard about this, they believed it was the power of the sun's touch. They marveled at how everything came to life, from the flourishing plants to the animals giving birth. It was like the god of agriculture had blessed the surroundings with his golden touch. The hands of the sun had brought so much joy and help to the family, from picking fruits to tending to the animals and baking delicious cakes. Even those who were unfortunate found happiness through the kindness of those who protected them. One day, Baron Mayfield arrived to pick up Hazel and apologized for being late and causing inconvenience. However, when he asked about the girl's whereabouts, no one answered. Mayfield searched everywhere until he found Hazel in a haystack. He tried to take her away, but she refused, wanting to stay on the farm. Nels supported her decision, explaining that she had a natural talent for farming. Mayfield argued that she couldn't stay since she was the only heir to the Mayfield name. Hazel didn't want to leave her family behind: Uncle Nels, Miss Martin, Emily, Belle, and Noelle. As a farewell gift, they gave Hazel a basket filled with fruits and vegetables. Her friends hugged her tightly, assuring her that she could visit them anytime she wanted. When she departed, she had this idea that one day she would have her very own farm. Fast forward 11 years later, in a small town at the heart of Rossel's empire, Hazel found herself working in a bank. Suddenly, one of the visitors who was engrossed in the newspaper noticed that a farm was up for sale for 8,000 gold. As the workday came to an end, a coworker asked Hazel if she planned on going to the bakery under the bridge again. Hazel replied affirmatively, explaining that the bakery under the bridge offered the cheapest bread, costing only 2 pieces of silver. Despite the scarcity of butter, she had no choice but to make do. On her way to the bakery, Hazel unexpectedly spotted her grandfather, Mayfield, who seemed incredibly excited. It had been a while since they last saw each other. Mayfield, dressed in vacation attire, revealed that he'll be traveling to Mamanuca. Hazel suggested they continue the conversation later and proposed heading home for now. Since she wasn't working overtime that day, she gave her grandfather 5 silver coins to buy coffee. She then suggested they go shopping together. They decided to prepare a meatloaf for dinner, with Hazel planning to make a blueberry pie for dessert. Grandpa proudly declared that no one in the world could resist her succulent roast meat pie and a blueberry pie loaded with plenty of blueberries. However, due to time constraints, they had to put that plan on hold. Grandpa handed Hazel a piece of paper, which turned out to be the deed of ownership for the land. Finally, Hazel's dream of owning a farm had come true. She couldn't believe what her grandfather was telling her, as he had never been supportive of her aspirations. Mayfield explained that she had been discussing it with him for the past 10 years, so he's finally given in, he realizing that the most important thing was that the property was now in her hands, and it's a different story if it's the family real estate, so it can still be considered noble. This changed everything, as she could now pursue her dreams and grow, both figuratively and literally. Hazel suddenly asked her grandfather if the place they were in was really a farm. Her grandfather awkwardly replied that for now, it was just a garden. However, he assured her that if she wanted, they could turn it into a farm. He promised her that she would love it there, as the sun shines all day and the land is flat and well maintained. The house may be small, but it's more than enough for one person. Plus, if they take a short walk, they can find carriage stops, market stalls, long paths, cafes, restaurants, and more. It's a wonderful place, even though there's nothing there at the moment. Grandpa explained that it was because the farm was located in the center of the capital, but that wasn't the most important thing. He mentioned their unfortunate Mayfield family who had their land taken away, and how difficult it was to acquire land in such circumstances. Hazel asked him who was trying to take their land, and Grandpa revealed that it was the owner of high status, the same person who had bought all the surrounding houses. He had plans to demolish everything if the owner didn't show up by May 2nd. Hazel couldn't believe what she was hearing. Grandpa reassured her that they still had hope and that he had all the necessary documents to prove their legal rights over the land. He urged Hazel to hurry and protect their land and farm. When Hazel saw the documents with her name on them, she was filled with joy. She ran to hug her grandfather, overwhelmed by the fact that the land was truly hers. Grandpa assured her that it wasn't a dream and that all the documents were real. Hazel confidently stated that she had been meticulously reviewing the loan approval documents for a decade, assuring herself that she was well prepared. She also reassured her grandfather that there was no need to worry about the land, as it was registered under her name. When Hazel returned to the bank, she was scolded by her boss for being 3 minutes late. He warned her that if she continued with such behavior, she should consider resigning. In response, Hazel calmly declared that she is re-signing. The boss was taken aback, and as Hazel began drafting her resignation letter, he was left dumbfounded. Hazel left the bank feeling content because she finally owned her own farm, unaware that a man was waiting for her there. Upon arriving in the capital of Abalon, Hazel was approached by a man who inquired if she had come from Rossel. He explained that the city had been undergoing reconstruction since the emperors ascended the throne. Even unruly wanders had been collecting garbage and waste from the streets. Sir Zigwil had personally come to the city to oversee the situation. Curious, Hazel asked about Sir Zigwil's identity, and the man informed her that he was the captain of the fortress knights, the Saxony Schwau. There are only 3 master swordsmasters in the world, and she believed the emperor was a grand cavalier. The emperor had become king at the age of 22 and had 4 close friends, with whom he had conquered neighboring countries and stabilized border situations. Despite his handsome appearance, the fact that the emperor was good-looking did not alleviate the burden of taxes. Following the map, Hazel reached her destination and was astounded by its breathtaking beauty. However, she couldn't help but notice that the enormous palace stood out a bit too much, posing a problem. Noticing a statue of an important figure, the mansion and the guards, Hazel suddenly realized that the grand mansion belonged to none other than the emperor himself. She understood that she couldn't challenge the king's authority and it would be best for her to surrender and accept defeat. However, as she entered the property, she couldn't believe that this land truly belonged to her and no one else. She knew that once it was titled in her name, no one could take it away from her, regardless of the king's power. Determined, she took a sign and wrote, "Marin's Farm," on it. The girl dressed appropriately and carried a basket filled with various items, ready to start working. As she began pulling out the weeds, she spotted a familiar potato stem and felt joy knowing that soon she would harvest spring potatoes. In her mind, she imagined where she would plant celery, chicory, rosemary, mint, sage, and lavender. In just a few weeks, she would be able to collect mint leaves and use them. She also planned to grow various other plants, knowing that this farm would soon start generating income. The girl remembered how, as a child, she would easily pull out even the smallest roots, but now she was faster. She was determined to finish before sunset. Meanwhile, 3 men walked by farm, engaged in conversation. Men expressed relief that he had finally finished dealing with an unpleasant number 79 house. His companion agreed, mentioning how ugly the house and garden looked every time they passed by it. Suddenly, one of them noticed an open fence near the farm and assumed someone had snuck in to smoke. He thought it was a problem, but then he heard a noise and saw a girl pulling weeds. He approached Hazel and curiously asked what she was up to. Hazel cheerfully replied that she was pulling out weeds before planting, as it is necessary to clear the area of any unwanted plants. She explained that this was a fundamental practice in agriculture. Shocked, he questioned whether she planned to build a farm here. Hazel's face lit up as she confirmed that she indeed intended to build a farm in this very location. The guy couldn't help but wonder if she was mentally sound and suggested that they should dismiss her from this venture. However, Hazel confidently responded that it wouldn't be so easy to get rid of her. He added that those who make such remarks are usually not as formidable as they claim to be. The girl clarified that there was one person whom His Majesty couldn't remove from this place, herself, as she belonged to the Mayfield family. The boy was astonished and asked if she was referring to Archibald Sebastian Mayfield, the landowner who seemed to have vanished. Hazel proudly confirmed that he was her grandfather and that he had passed down the land to her, along with the proper documentation. She handed the boy a notarized document that proved her rights to the property and another document that verified her as her grandfather's granddaughter. The boy became frustrated as he realized that all the stamps and identification were authentic. He couldn't comprehend why Hazel had suddenly appeared like this. Feeling remorseful for his earlier rudeness, he apologized and explained that he had no idea she would show up on the last day. However, he expressed their interest in purchasing the land within the Imperial Palace. He mentioned that the surrounding land had been acquired at an average price of 480 gold pieces, but if Miss Mayfield wished, they could offer her 600 gold pieces. He assumed she was an ignorant aristocrat who was unaware of the real world. Hazel responded that although it was a significant amount of money, she had repeatedly made it clear that he had no intention of selling the land. He doubted that they would be able to negotiate anything with her. Determined, the boy decided to go back and inform the emperor about all of this. Upon his return, he found that the king was still in the midst of meeting. He started exclaiming he needed to speak with the emperor as soon as possible. Suddenly, the king overheard his words and questioned why there was so much commotion. The boy explained that he was from the royal court department and wanted to inform them about the new building and great garden that the king had constructed as part of the Victory commemorative project. He mentioned that there was a piece of land in the garden that was supposed to become public property, but the owner of that land had unexpectedly shown up and expressed a desire to build a farm there. The ministers were shocked and considered it a vulgar act of a swindler. They accused her of trying to make money without selling the land that was included in the construction plan. The king responded by pointing out that they were all experts at pretending to be innocent and uninvolved. He specifically criticized her for her hypocrisy, claiming that she knew very well how to manipulate situations for her own benefit. The king considered such behavior punishable, especially within the palace. In the era under his control, such scams must be eliminated, so he planned to punish the owner brutally. Cecil stated that the truth is that the landowner is a young woman who hasn't even reached the age of 20. The king declared that he will now pass a law of oblivion, ensuring that the entire palace completely disregards this audacious scammer from the 79th district, as if this person doesn't exist at all. The Minister of Finance blamed himself for what happening. He dared not raise his head before the king and will take full responsibility for the incident, resolving the confusion as soon as possible. However, he also mentioned that there were more pressing matters at hand, as the flower dance was approaching. They needed to decide which girl he would accompany. The king responded that he would go with Athena, but the man disagreed, stating that this time it wouldn't work and he should choose someone else. The king replied to the Minister of Finance that he wouldn't go that route and he truly believes that he is only interested in the woman he's supposed to marry. Therefore, he ordered him to stay focused and do as he was told. When the king was born, he approached him with determination, ready to give him his whole heart and live for him, but now he just wants to distance himself from him. The finance minister arrived at her farm. He was the first guest at her farm and she invited him to the table to have coffee and cookies. He looked at her house and asked if she was really going to live in a place like this. She replied that this is her house and she knows that no one can evict her from here. The man thought that she didn't seem to realize the crime she had committed and that she should be reprimanded. He turned towards Hazel's hat and informed the hat that her mistress was extremely rude. He expressed that she wasn't afraid of the king and that her mistress didn't grasp the seriousness of the situation. She questioned how her mistress could limit herself to using her entourage to earn a large sum of money and how she dared to go against the king. Hazel asked the man why he made such claims, but he probably didn't understand her because she had no intention of selling the land. She was taken aback when she saw the castle in front of the house. The man explained that the king himself had recognized the gravity of the situation and had already implemented a law of silence. Now, no one was allowed to speak to her or bring up the subject. Essentially, she was sentenced to a communication ban, which was considered a form of execution. The girl responded that it wasn't a real execution and that everything was fine because no one could stop her from doing what she wanted. The man persisted and told Hazel through the hat that despite her mistress's nonsensical talk, the best solution would be for her to snap out of these strange fantasies, otherwise, she would be thrown out tomorrow. The outraged girl mentioned that she had the deeds to the land. The man stated that in that case, her case would be handled according to the law. He also revealed that he was assigned to Hazel's case and had been here for years, so he remembered the laws that many people had forgotten. That's why they planned to demolish her house and find reasons to confiscate the land. He added that he would start with the palace sanitation law. Hazel contemplated the fact that this was not just a threat and that this man needed to be stopped at all costs. The girl didn't know what to do and recalled how Aunt Martin always treated the tax collectors who came to their house with stern faces. She would offer them sweets and smile at them all the time. Hazel followed the man and asked if he was banned from coffee and if he would like to have coffee, so he wouldn't desire it so much.